Hello and welcome to another video from this Monteverde Mania March series of reviews I am doing. A month of just reviewing Monteverde inks, which has been really wonderful. So today's ink is Pumpkin Cake. This is from the Sweet Life series. Monteverde released this box of 10 different inks, which are based around sweets, desserts and cakes and puddings and muffins and all those kinds of things. Really fun set, some really great colours in here, and I chose Pumpkin Cake for review in this series simply because I think it's a very interesting colour. So yeah, you got birthday cake, blue velvet cake, key lime pie, mango mousse, blueberry muffin, strawberry shortcake, cherry Danish, chocolate pudding, iced cookies, and pumpkin cake, and that's where I've gone with today. So let's have a look at it. I ran it through a couple of basic tests, and I have some thoughts. So this is the ink on a colouring card. You can see it is a really interesting red-brown with some nice sort of orange hits coming through. It's got good saturation, it's dark, not sheen so much as like gloss perhaps, but it's a really interesting and very beautiful coloured ink. We'll start with it here on 68 GSM Tomo River paper. I have this in two pens, the Twisby Go Broad and Extra Fine, both currently being cleaned for the next Monteverde review. They're really getting a workout this month, I can tell you that. Let's talk about the 5 points. Oh, firstly, look at that. Isn't it beautiful? It's just a lovely sort of rich coloured ink. So let's talk about these 5 points. So as I said, this comes from the Sweet Life set. This is a box of 10 inks, really good value, which is also the second point here. Per mil, Monteverde inks are wonderful value, and I think that what you actually get for that is really great. It's got the ITF technology, which is their lubricated ink technology to stop the pen from clogging and all those kinds of things. The next point here I've put is clumping. Now, this is something I've seen reports of on things like Instagram and stuff like that when the inks first came out, that people were finding that if the ink dried out, so if you're in particular climates and things like that, if it dried out in the pen, you might get some clumping around the feed. That's normal from inks that have like red or browny kind of hues to them. That's something that you something like Diamine Ancient Copper is a great example of that. So it's just something to be aware of. I haven't found it personally, but I'm reporting it here because it's what I have heard of. The last point I want to make is shading. I think this ink shades really well, and why I think it shades really well is because the contrast, you see the shade, but it doesn't take away from the writing. There are some inks that shade with such a contrast that it takes away from the ease of reading. This one, like if you look at some of the writing around here, and like even on that performance there, you can see a little bit of shading. You still are perfectly able to make out exactly every stroke, which is great. But the shading is still beautiful, and it brings out those more vibrant orangey browns. Performance. Good dry time. If we look here, the 2 second to the 20 second, it dries very quickly, but it still feels kind of wet. It's got a really nice flow to it, and that's part of that Monteverde ink technology they use. And as I said, it's got great shading. It's got good performance on lower end paper, which we'll see in a second. And it has really good saturation, but that doesn't stop it from being easily cleaned. All inks that are highly saturated require just a little bit more care when cleaning, but there are no issues with staining or anything like that. Extras, good shade, no visible sheen, although there is some of that it's not sheen, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to put it, like gloss on the ink. No shimmer, and it isn't permanent. You can see from the water test it moves around quite a lot. You get a lot of lighter shade happening. There's something held back, but it is not a permanent ink. If we look at the ink here on this is just Spyrex student notepad paper, very loose weave paper, you see that, it's a little bit of feathering, but it's not too bad. It kind of holds together quite nicely. It's something I've noticed from a lot of these Monteverde inks. The reverse of the page shows a little bit of bleeding, but that is to be expected. Like that Twisby, the broad particularly, is actually fairly wet, but this is not fountain pen friendly paper, so almost anything will bleed through this. Next step up the ladder is the Reflex copy paper. This is sort of 80 GSM copy paper. It's slightly tighter weave, and we see that there's still a little bit of feathering, but it's not too bad. And then the reverse once again shows that, you know, not fountain pen friendly paper, you will get bleed, you will get some, you know, sort of, well, there is a bit of bleed, but mainly where you put down a lot of ink. I think in a finer nib, like the extra fine here, you could probably get away with using this on some paper, particularly on drier nibs. It's not the worst performer, I have to say. And now here on Rhodia, you see once again that beautiful swab there. Looks great. Like the water moves it around a lot, particularly on this paper. It moves around a lot. You lose a bit more of the detail. It is quite wet there. The dry type, like that's an instant sort of swipe across. So it is a wetter ink, I think, just with a good dry time. Shading looks really, really nice here. On the reverse, the only place we get any ink coming through is on the swab, and the bit where I put down quite a lot of ink there. General writing, absolutely nothing. So as you would expect on Rhodia, it performs really, really well. Looking at the chromatography, it's actually really interesting. This like magenta, burgundy, pink running all the way through to this oranges and bright, vibrant yellow. These combined give us a really interesting color and bring out some really interesting shades, particularly in the lighter shading here. The tones are really interesting, and I think that starts to kind of come through here. So if we're doing like a color comparison of this ink, there's the coloring card once again. Two inks I've brought up. I wanted to bring up an orange and something that's a little bit sort of more like a burnt orange. So I've just brought up burnt orange from Robert Oster because I think there's some, like right in here in the lighter shading, we see similarities, we see some orange coming through. And then sort of another sort of light reddy brown, SBRE brown, which is made by Diamine and Ackerman. Interesting sort of comparisons there in the mid shading. These aren't designed to be exact matches. That's not what I'm going for here. I'm going to put it into context as to where this ink sort of fits in the ink world. So I think it's certainly darker than Pumpkin Cake, than SPRE brown, sorry. A bit more red, and some of that depth in that dark brown is really, really nice. So what does this ink cost? Well, the 30ml bottle, which we saw here, which is the standard Monteverde glass bottle. This one has the plastic cap, a simple label on the front there, not a lot else sort of going on. This retails for around $10 a bottle, or $12.95 Australian for that bottle. Now the US price of the set of 10 30ml bottles, so one of each of those Sweet Life inks, retails for around $90 to $100. So per mil, I think it's fabulous value. Like 300 mils of ink for less than $100 is great value. So the score I've given this ink is 4 out of 5. It doesn't do anything wrong. It performs well. It's really got really decent performance and value, and the color is great. I think it's a good ink. I think it's one of my favorites from the Sweet Life set, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's got some interesting things to say, and I think it's it's not, if not unique, it's different enough to have something that's worth seeing. So this was Pumpkin Cake from Monteverde, part of their Sweet Life set. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here. And if you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there is a way you would like to support my channel by sponsoring your review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. A big thank you to Monteverde and its Australian affiliates for supporting this series of videos, providing some of these inks for review as part of my month of Monteverde reviews. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.